Good evening and welcome to the October 6, 2021 regular governing board meeting of the Pima Community College District. Our first order of business is our roll call. So Mr. Sylvan, if you could please read the roll.
Catherine Ripley.
Sorry, present.
Dr. Hay.
Here.
Maria Garcia.
Present.
Luis Gonzalez. Damian Klinko.
I am here. Thank you.
All members are present.
Thank you very much. The next item is 1.3, our public comment and call to the audience. The Pima Community College Governing Board welcomes comments on issues within the jurisdiction of the college. Generally, the total time for the public comment will be limited to 45 minutes and comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual. These times may be modified by the board chair or board. Individuals sharing comments are expected to communicate with decorum and respect. Individuals who engage in disorderly conduct or who use divisive or insulting language may have their time reduced or concluded by the board chair. At the conclusion of public comment, individual board members may respond to criticism made by those who address the board, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that the matter be put on a future agenda. Members of the board, however, may not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during the public comment unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. Finally, be advised that internal college processes are available to students and employees for communication. So our first speaker this evening is Russell Schmidt.
Are you able to see me?
But we can hear you.
Okay, let's see. It doesn't look like I have an option to turn on a camera.
Okay. Can you give the presentation without that, or?
I can. So I'll go ahead and get started.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, members of the board and Chancellor Lambert, my name is Russ Schmidt and I'm the program director for respiratory care at Pima Community College. And it's a privilege to talk to you tonight about the program. A program, I might add, which is a workforce program that has existed at the college since its founding in 1969. Our program has consistently turned out highly skilled, professionally trained respiratory therapist graduates over the years. Recently, the program received the 2020 Distinguished Registered Respiratory Therapist Credentialing Success Award from the Commission on Accreditation for Respiratory Care. This award signifies at least 90% of the graduates achieved the highest credential granted by the National Board for Respiratory Care. On average, the respiratory care program will graduate about 25 students annually. Typically, half of those graduates will become nationally credentialed, state licensed, and hired into our local community, usually within the first 3 months following graduation. Most will work at one of the many corporate hospital systems throughout Southern Arizona. Others will work in Phoenix or out of state. Some will continue on to physician assistant school or even medical school. The COVID-19 pandemic has presented many challenges to the program. The move to online curriculum, implementing personal protective equipment protocols, and access to off-campus clinical experiences, just to name a few. However, our program has persevered over the last 19 months, being the only program within its division to maintain uninterrupted clinical opportunities for the students. This was only possible due to our strong community partnerships with the clinical sites. Tonight, I'd like to introduce to you two individuals who shared a valued part of our respiratory care program legacy. First is Catalina Zimdars, a registered respiratory therapist and 20 graduate from our program. Recently, Catalina was featured in the spring issue of Pima Community College Career Focus, where she told her story about her experience with COVID-19 patients during the pandemic. With Catalina, that story still continues to this day. Additionally, you will hear from Maria Rodriguez, Director of Respiratory Care Services at Tucson Medical Center. Maria has been closely associated with the program at many levels, first as a clinical instructor, then as a lab instructor, and finally as our interim director of clinical education most recently. Maria is a vital community partner supporting our students with a wide variety of clinical opportunities as we in turn support her with a diversified pool of respiratory care employee candidates. So at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce first Catalina Zimdars, who's going to tell us a little bit about her story of resilience in the respiratory care field.
Oh, hello. Thank you, Ross. Hello, everyone. Yes, it's been quite the year. I graduated in May last year and passed my boards around May, and I did everything, all my paperwork to work in Cornerstone. I was hired in July 21st. During that time, I literally we were thrown into the fire. Honestly, we didn't know. I didn't know at the time. Now I understand what it's like. But I was prepared definitely for what it was coming. I was taught many things. We go through bronchoscopies and intubations and vents. I never thought that I was going to be in my first year to have the experience that I have right now. During the pandemic, I saw many cases. We ended up this year doing how I can say it, like everything, bronchoscopies, chest tubes, pleural fusions. I could be one day doing a neb and the next day I'm managed a ARDS patient. I had the pleasure to have my first intubation on this year too. I don't think I can be more thankful and for the program. Is incredibly like how things will click through patient and case to case. It's been amazing. It's been really busy now. You know, when the first wave passed, it's strange not to be going. The support that we receive every day from the family patients, from everybody, even the students that come and train with us, it is amazing. I never thought that we were so important, and we are extremely important. There is nothing that we cannot manage in an emergency. Everybody in an emergency needs a respiratory therapist. We all need to breathe. It is amazing. My experience has been just unbelievable. And I had, like I said, like in a year, I have, I don't know how to say it, like years and years of experience of many people. And I'm really, really thankful for Russ and Elma, Maria. I use it all. I use everything that you guys told me. I apply it. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Maria Rodriguez. Ms. Rodriguez, are you there?
Hi, here. Hi, sorry about that. Thank you again so much thank you so much for having me. And I, as Russ had said, I did have the pleasure of being a part of the PCC respiratory therapy program for almost 4.5 years. So I do feel so like I know the program and what it provides to the students inside and out. I can say personally, and being in this leadership position at Tucson Medical Center, the landscape for respiratory therapists has changed drastically. But the value and the need for respiratory therapists has only exponentially increased. In reflecting on what I would say at this board meeting, I had reflected on the students that we graduated, 4 years ago, and compared them to the handful of that I've just hired, all of that have graduated this past year. And I can say that they haven't skipped a beat. They are the critical thinkers. They have the experience, the knowledge, obviously the guidance and the instruction to pass their boards, be critical thinking respiratory therapists, but also really valuable employees. And what happened to the last 2 years is mimics and mirrors what is happening to us in the hospital, the stopping and going, the adjustment. But that hasn't really stopped or stifled the level of therapists that I really have been able to add to my team. It's been really wonderful because I do know how hard the program at PCC as a whole. I know how much the struggle that you all had, but the respiratory therapy program specifically did not stop and really push these students forward. And that experience that they had in their clinicals really translated to the employees that we have now. I am, as Russ had said, we are able to have students and provide them experiences in pulmonary function labs, in our bronchoscopies. We're looking at expanding that, and we're able to do, superdimensional, getting first and second stage lung cancer. We're a beacon level ICU and level 3 NICU. And we have a NICU transport team, half of which are respiratory therapists, and some of them are actually PCC graduates. So it's really been wonderful to be able to have all those experiences and all those different levels of therapists to be able to teach them at the bedside. But we are first and foremost a community hospital. And so we have a lot more say. We have a lot more, we have such engagement with the community. So it is a struggle, and it's a sentiment that I know isn't just me or other hospitals in Tucson, but throughout the United States, really trying to find and gain more therapists in the workforce, as the last 2 years has really pushed them, some into early retirement, some reconsidering healthcare, some just quitting altogether or pursuing travel jobs. So it really leaves a hole for us. I can say too that in the past, I think that we worried about our students in clinicals, and so and if they got enough attention, and if they would be brought, included and taken along with those experiences. And now I can say that we really highly value the relationship and the presence of the students and the instructors and PCC's program to help support us in times of need, and helping us get creative with how we can hire. So I'm so proud to be able to put PCC, have it on my resume, but to continue that relationship. It is something that I'm going to continue to lean on as we build up our workforce again. So thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you all tonight.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rodriguez. And, I think I speak for the board when I just say thank you for the work that you've done throughout this pandemic. This entire program, it's really, the pandemic has brought into focus just how urgent our healthcare providers are and how important our programs are to deliver quality healthcare to our community. And respiratory therapy is no exception. So thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for sharing your experience with the program with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, we have Michaela Hayes.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay. So good evening, board members, colleagues, and guests. I would like to take this time to point out a few facts related to the contract proposal for the Chancellor on tonight's agenda, and why PCCEA is concerned about this proposal and the big picture of the trends of expenses here at Pima. First, this proposal includes 2 additional days of leave for the Chancellor. This extension of the Chancellor's leave to now almost 10 weeks per year amounts to an additional raise that is not in line with what employees were given, and we question why this is being asked at this time and only for the Chancellor. Second, we recognize that the proposed contract reflects the 2% increase plus $1,000 that all employees were given last year. However, I would like to point out that should you accept the proposal in front of you, the Chancellor will be making a base salary of 17% or $50,000 more than in 2014-2015, while salaries for faculty and most employees have only risen 7% in that same time. Please note that even before the increase in this contract amendment, the Chancellor's base salary this past year was already an increase of 14.5% over 2014-2015, double the percentage increase that faculty have seen in that same time. Given that inflation has risen about 11% since 2014, effectively faculty and employee salaries have lost buying power, while the Chancellor's salary has not only kept up with inflation, but actually surpassed it. PCCA has chosen 2014-15 as the comparison year, as this was the last year employees received a step increase from the board. This is just one example of the trend PCCEA has been highlighting on behalf of the faculty in regards to the prioritization of administrative salaries over faculty and staff salaries, and brings me to the next point I would like to bring forward. PCA remains concerned about the direction of the classification and compensation study. The faculty on the steering committee for the study are currently bringing a list of specific concerns through internal channels and are waiting for answers to the questions that have been raised. There are some larger budget trends regarding allocation of spending that have not been acknowledged or addressed yet. For example, almost $6 million in total spending has been redirected away from faculty and adjunct faculty to other areas of the college. We would like to request a full discussion to be had between PCCEA, Faculty Senate, staff, and administration, where we can share our concerns and have an in-depth discussion regarding the budget as a whole. Finally, in my public comment last month, I made a request that I felt would improve communication and transparency between employees, administration, and the board. I have met with administration, and we are exploring ideas of how to improve communication and accountability for addressing concerns brought forward by employees to the board. We will report back with something more concrete in the coming month or two. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Michaela. We really appreciate your thoughts on these topics. Chancellor Lambert, if you could, if it would be possible to, to meet with the PCEA about their budget, their concerns about the total budget, and maybe report back to us, that would be, I think, useful as we begin to explore the budget.
That's no problem to do that. And Dave B continues to do that with the entire college. So we'd be glad to do that.
Okay. Thank you very much. And finally, we have Chris Tober. Mr. Tober.
Good evening, gentlemen. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Perfect. I have a first question to begin with. I recognize that the latitude we have for a speech is about 3 minutes. Mine is about 3.5 minutes. And I'm hoping you give me that latitude to say what I have to say.
Mr. Tober, you are already about 20 seconds into your time. So
I will start. Let me start.
Thank you.
My name is Christopher Tober. I've lived in Tucson my entire life, and I am president of a small minority-owned business called Advanced Controls Corporation. I am a taxpayer in Pima County and a strong supporter of PCC's educational mission. ACC employs between 40 to 50 full-time personnel as a controls contractor. Due to the nature of my business, there is an appearance of a personal and business conflict with the Train IGA, or investment grade audit. Those who support the IGA will undoubtedly point to that fact. However, it is also apparent that in the issue I am addressing, Train Corporation also has a conflict. It is their goal to wrest building automation work from the local contractors over the course of the contract. So yes, they have an obvious vested interest in this outcome. In review of the financial data within the IGA, I've identified several inaccuracies. Train is offering BAS replacement costs of approximately $5 per square foot. As a comparison, Advanced Controls replaced the CSI system at the Desert Vista Pueblo site at an installed cost of $3.50 per square foot, which included sub-mechanical work. Train's proposed operational and maintenance savings of $250,000 per year has raised questions, compounded by claiming these savings for 10 years. This needs to be evaluated. Train is asking for $7.2 million to replace the BAS system, which includes removing $450,000 of recently completed BAS work at the 6 central plants. Advanced Controls projects the remaining BAS retrofit work totals $2 million based on square footage. Advanced Controls has been contracted and completed BAS work by Pima for $1.3 million since 2018. BAS savings for this retrofit are also undocumented. How is that possible? As a concerned taxpayer in this community, these two issues require clarification. Number one, will a qualified independent third-party firm be hired to conduct a full audit on the costs and savings, including the operational savings? I am aware that Pima has hired GLHN Engineering to conduct an audit. Their contract, however, does not include a full-scale audit. Number two, will the same entity confirm the actual BAS retrofit work already completed and compare this work to Train's offering? As a lifelong Tucsonan, I have been fortunate to have served on the boards at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, Immaculate Heart, and Southwood Catholic High Schools. I am also a life member of the Tucson Conquistadors, whose attributes are well known in this community. I bring these highlights into perspective because I firmly believe in the education process. Education is the core of personal success, and the community needs to support the efforts of PCC. It is with the same passion that I have these same concerns with this proposal. All indications as already presented by several groups and PCC facilities concur that the financial benefits are being overstated and unsupported. I am concerned that Pima will be subject to years of deficit financing, information that has already been presented to the board. I strongly urge the governing board to understand the pluses and minuses of this offering and insist on unbiased data to make informed decisions. To conclude, and as a taxpayer in District 1, I plan on discussing this matter more thoroughly with the supervisor in my district, District 1 Supervisor Kat Ripley. I encourage all concerned citizens to reach out to the supervisor that represents their district and see what direction they are leaning. Their decision on this topic could have a profound financial impact to the taxpayers in our community over the next 20 years. I thank you for your time in this matter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tober. And we are in receipt of your letter, which we have supplied to our chief legal counsel.
Yes.
We also have as you mentioned, we have an independent engineering firm looking into this. So that report is going to be provided to the board and will be discussed in an upcoming meeting.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have our we have our remarks by the governing board. Let's begin with Ms. Ripley.
Great. Thank you very much for all of the speakers for coming forth and for all of their issues and concerns. I would like to just take this opportunity to say a couple things. First of all, we have been doing a lot of work behind the scenes for all those listening as you know, there's a lot of moving parts involved in overseeing a community college of this size. So there's a lot of work. A lot of the visual work that everyone's seen, to include the beam signing ceremony with the new Applied Sciences Center of Excellence, the opening this summer of the Automotive Center, all of those things are very visual, but I want to emphasize how much behind the scenes work has been done in other areas as well. For instance, I want to give kudos to all the people involved with adult basic education. You know, a lot of what we do here is to get associate's degrees and to get people into colleges and to get them certified into the workforce. But a big piece that I love and am proud of in Pima Community College is the adult basic education department. Another thing I'm proud of and I want to give kudos to is all of those, the Veterans Center and all of those involved with Davis-Monthan Air Force Base and the relationship that we have with them, to include certifying all of the Air Force paramedics, which I had the pleasure of attending one of their graduations, a couple of them. The refugee education program, again, I want to mention this in case you haven't read the newsletters, there's a lot happening again behind the scenes. The creativity of the athletic department to fundraise online to be able to support athletics. We really, it is important. It's not just another extracurricular activity. As a mom, I can attest to the fact that athletics at colleges, at schools is very important. So kudos for their creativity. The forgiveness of the debt. I mean, a lot of the students chose not to do that, but of the ones that did, I think it meant a lot. It meant a lot to give them a break this year because of COVID. All of that stuff that's been happening, in addition to Pima Foundation, I want to give kudos to the 167,000 plus in scholarship monies to our students. That's extraordinary. Every little bit that we can do to help our students, it goes a long way. The successful FAFSA kickoff, I think, was another example of what's happening behind the scenes. The other thing, I appreciate so much the first speakers and the respiratory therapy, the department that they're involved with. I really look forward to another center of excellence happening in West Campus dedicated to all of the healthcare careers. I think it's really important, especially now. it's an example that Pima Community College is rolling with the changes. Yes, we need automotive workers, applied sciences, but more now than ever, educators and healthcare workers. So I'm really looking forward to that. There's a lot of vision, a lot of things that are happening. There's a lot of moving parts. Again, the worker bees get all of the credit, but I also want to give kudos to our chancellor for overseeing so many different moving parts to make 5 campuses work and keep us afloat, and not just afloat, but running during COVID. We're not over. COVID hasn't been over. So sorry for taking so much time here, but I really wanted to give credit where it's due, and go team go. I'm very proud to be representing District 1. Thank you.
Ms. Garcia. You're muted, unfortunately.
Well, I'm not going to say nothing because I believe Ms. Ripley said it all. Thank you so much for the information. It was great job.
Mr. Gonzalez.
The same as well too. I do want to say, as Ms. Ripley and Ms. Garcia mentioned, I think there's a lot that's been happening in Pima, but more important, as I mentioned, Ms. Ripley mentioned the GED program. I was honored to see the graduation ceremony at West Campus a couple of days ago, and I think it's great in reference to talking about providing opportunity zones in reference to through Pima that has to offer now with those students that got their GED out there. I think it was an excellent ceremony. But it was challenging in reference to our present time with COVID and addressing or trying to talk to the audience where there's no audience there. But I think it's went well, and I really repeat again and reiterate the best of luck to all those students that were acknowledged and got their GED. But more important too, as I said that night, their graduation is not only for the oneself, it's for the family, but more important to the community. That demonstrates to the community that Pima can be involved at all levels, not only through the Pima Community College, but also the efforts of the other extension to hopefully go to the 4-year institution. But that's all I wanted to say. And as mentioned, I'm very proud of all the students, the young people, and especially the high school students that are also taking advantage of the dual credit programs too. Because I think I know those are going to be our future students as well too. And there's a lot to offer through Pima, and we need to continue supporting them through our faculty and staff and the administration. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gonzalez. Dr. Hay.
Yeah, I just take a few moments. I want to echo what Ms. Ripley mentioned in terms of all the amazing advancements that have happened in Pima College over the last few years. And just to remind the audience and some of our newer board members, we have come a long way since 4 years ago when we were on the verge of losing our accreditation. And quite frankly, the advances we've made and the advances this college has made, the faculty, the staff, the senior leadership, that happens. All those things that Ms. Ripley mentioned, all the great advances in our centers of excellence, our strong relationships, I think, with the state in terms of supporting some of our facilities, is because of the senior leadership. And it's because, quite frankly, of one person, Lee Lambert, who has built an amazing team. He's brought them together in a time of unprecedented challenges, and we're still moving forward. And it's just amazing what he has done. And I want to publicly make sure that everyone listening appreciates the extraordinary job that Lee Lambert has done. This is not a job that just anybody off the street can do. It's actually very, very hard work. And he has put together an extraordinary team. And the faculty have also been extraordinary. But the tenor and the tone and how you move a college forward is set from the very top. And that's from Dr. Lambert, and I want to thank him for his efforts and championing the Pima Community College and championing economic development for the county. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hay. And I mean, I would echo, of course, the same thing. You know, the last year and a half since COVID started has been extraordinarily challenging. Despite those challenges, this institution has risen to continue to advance these remarkable initiatives that are really preparing our region, not just for a recovery, but for the future. And it is a collective effort from everybody at every level of this institution. But as Dr. Hay noted, Chancellor Lambert sets the tone and has set a vision for this institution that has created a transformational participation from the business community, from the philanthropic community. It is remarkable to be so close to watch all of the effort and energy that goes into each and every program and decision. Because it's really always about serving our students and impacting and improving our community. So Chancellor Lambert, I'm incredibly grateful for your work and for your team, and of course, everybody in the institution, the faculty and the staff. The work that everyone does is just profound, and it's really making difference in the lives of Tucsonans and Pima County residents. So thank you so much for that. With that, we'll move on to our reports. Our first report is our administrative report 2.1, initiatives to increase student persistence and retention by Dr. Dolores Duran-Certa.
Thank you so much. So good evening, Chairperson Klinko, members of the board, Chancellor Lambert, colleagues and guests. It gives me great pleasure to share with you the work that Pima College has done in regards to persistence and retention. Last month, Dr. Dure presented on enrollment, and today I will be presenting on persistence and retention, which are very much intertwined and they directly relate to each other. I've also invited members of my team in case there are specific questions and that they can chime in and answer as well. I'd like to thank them and all of academic affairs for their hard work, leadership, and dedication to student success. So for my presentation, I would like to paint a picture of persistence or retention for you, provide some background information, context, and also data. I'll explain how enrollment, persistence, or retention tie to each other, and also share what Pima has been doing and what our future plans are in regards to those. As we all know, for the past 19 months, it's hard to believe it's been 19 months, we've had a global pandemic, we've had economic upheaval, and then there's been social unrest where we need to address equity and social justice. We've had a sandemic. The chancellor's talked a lot about this, about the birth dearth. And the EMSI report has explained that there are three major factors that have accelerated the people shortage. There's been record numbers of baby boomers who left the market in 2020. Millions are prime age workers, and many of them are women that left the market. Also, men have been leaving the labor force and opting for part-time instead of full-time work for several decades. Also, the US experienced the lowest birth rate in the nation's history. In addition, we have competition in our backyard. Aside from the 3 state universities, there's Southern New Hampshire, Grand Canyon, Pima Medical Institute, University of Phoenix, for example. Another issue is that there are greater expectations from our community and from our state and from the country, really. People are now questioning the value of a college degree. We need to understand the expectations from students and employers as well. The McKinsey report has talked about the great attrition. Because of the pandemic, a record number of employees are quitting their jobs because of the pandemic and what impacts it had on them. So we've always worked hard to grow enrollment, retain and graduate students. However, we need to add to that, and that is understanding the student and employer expectations. We need to improve academic program and workforce alignment. We need to address the skills gap because we're seeing the labor market trends. We need to focus on that as well. The market demographics, market prioritizations, and also public policy impacts. And all of this needs to be done through an equity lens. We want to focus more than ever on the completion of our students, that they complete their studies. So we continue to focus on our learners, our students. I've always said, you've heard me say that we need to be, the Pima College needs to be a student-ready institution and not expect that our students be college-ready. Those days are gone. We need to understand who our students are, what their needs are, and remove those barriers to student success, as we have been through the Breaking Student Barriers Task Force. We need to support an equitable education for everyone, to get a good job, to have a wage that helps their families succeed and support. And that's why our mission, we've redone our mission fulfillment framework. Our mission is empower every learner every day for every goal. So I'm going to share my screen now for my presentation. One moment, please. Are you able to see that? Yes? Okay.
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. So for the next slide, here we go, strategic plan and the short-term SEMP. For the strategic plan, as I said, we've newly approved our strategic plan, and there are two main institutional goals. One is to increase completer counts by 6,000 by 24-25. But currently, our completers right now in 2021 are 2,700. So we have a huge way, a long ways to go. Also, our other goal is to double the completer counts of the Hispanic or Latino, American Indian, and Alaska Native, and Black and African American learners by 24-25. And this is all intertwined with the Achieve 60 and Achieve 60 Pima County initiative. It's all intertwined in the strategic plan. These are very ambitious goals, but they're needed as we seek to transform our community for through affordable education. We reiterate the college's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we need to better serve our underrepresented students, in particular, our African American students. These are ambitious stretch goals, as I said. Are they realistic given the current resources that we have? We will need to revisit and reassess these goals to make sure that we can get there. And with this presentation, I'm going to provide some ideas and share what we have done to get us to those goals. Last month, Dr. Dore presented on enrollment and the short-term SEM. This is also aligned with the strategic plan, the mission fulfillment framework, the chancellor's goals, the education and facilities master plans, the diversity, equity, inclusion plan as well. It's a one-year institutional plan to help identify, recruit, enroll, retain, and graduate students. This is very important for us. The next slide. These graphs are going to show you the persistence and retention rates that are currently at the college. So just to reiterate and to refresh everyone's memory, retention rates are fall to fall, persistence rates are fall to spring. So if we focus on the persistence rates, for the fall 2020, Pima College students are at 63.50. And this is a little below from the fall 2019 year at 65.37. And also, if you look at fall 2018, we were at 66.31. Fall 2021 will not be available until the spring of 22. But we see that there are pockets of increased persistence as evidenced by automotive mechanics in their certificate. That was at 32.31 in fall of 2018. And in 2020, 66.67. So there was a significant increase. For retention, for all Pima students in 2020 was at 41.62, which is a little below the 2018-19 at 45.67 and 2017-2018 at 44.72. So our retention rates are aligned based on the IPEDS data of 2020 with the state average. 57% of full-time students are retained and 38% of the part-time students statewide. So using the IPEDS data for the state of Arizona, Pima's retention rate is 59% for full-time students in 2020, whereas the state average for community college is 57%. Pima's retention rate is 40% for part-time students in 2020, whereas the state average for community colleges is 38%. So overall, and taking into account COVID, our rates have not shown a significant decline. Many of our efforts that were put in place before COVID and initiatives since have really helped maintain these rates. So that's the good news. And we expect that as we come out of the pandemic, these initiatives, as well as our continued efforts to fuel the increase in persistence retention, will continue. Reviewing and analyzing desegregated data is very important as we secure our interventions with our students that are mostly the underrepresented populations. And this way we can achieve economic mobility. And some of these initiatives are guided pathways, the centers of excellence, student engagement, dual enrollment, and also to reduce our DFW grades. These are just examples. So I wanted to share one particular example with you where there are indications of increased retention, even during a global pandemic. And this is computer information systems, AAS students. And they were at 39%, 53 in 2018, 2019, and 47.10% in 2019, 2020. So while based on the evidence that some of the programs have actually increased their persistence and retention, even during COVID, data also suggests that we need to improve and use this opportunity to make programs more relevant, to expand, create new programs that will economically empower our graduates in these times. In the area also of persistence, I didn't have a slide for this, but persistence has also increased. And one example is through automotive mechanics, the certificate. So if we look at the difference between fall 2017, it was at 38.33%. And in 2020, it grew to 66.67%. So these are all positive things. But with persistence and retention, we have some strategies that academic affairs and the entire college, in collaboration with all units, we are implementing some recommendations from the Education Master Plan. We're creating relevant curriculum that aligns with the centers of excellence and increasing retention efforts and student engagement. We continue to work with faculty collaboratively to focus on equity-minded and inclusive teaching practices through the work of the Teaching and Learning Center. So I'd like to now highlight some of these strategies in persistence and retention, as you can see in the image here. For scheduling, we're adopting best practices in scheduling. We're being very strategic based on data and of course the student needs. We've had student forums, student surveys, and they have told us what they prefer as far as scheduling is concerned. Before, couple of years ago, Pima had varying start times. For example, at West Campus, there were 69 starting times. At Desert Vista, 51. At Downtown Campus, 58 starting times. So we've streamlined that. We're also offering more classes outside of the 10 to 12 period. So we're offering more in the morning and also in the evenings and weekends. This spring, we're also having a little bit more of the face-to-face classes because our students are saying that they prefer that high touch and student engagement with their faculty. So we are incorporating about 55% face-to-face classes for the spring semester. And of course, we have Plan B and Plan C if the COVID get worse. Also using Ad Astra analytics to optimize offerings. This predicts the student demand for courses based on historical data. So for our institutional transformation, guided pathways, as you can see in the image with the different arrows, these are initiatives that are helping us get to the two institutional goals that I mentioned earlier on. Guided pathways, which aligns with the strategic plan. We continue to refine and scale up guided pathways through pathways for transfer, pathways for workforce, and making sure that our certificates are stackable and don't stand alone. We are creating systems to support retention and persistence efforts, to track the students' mastery of learning outcomes that lead to credentials. Marketing is also working very hard with us and promoting guided pathways, and also targeting our community by sending materials through the mail, because we understand for families, especially for parents, it's good for them to receive regular mail rather than using the social media. And these materials will be bilingual as well. For the Centers of Excellence, we're revamping our programs such as automotive, welding, and journalism to reflect 21st century skills. We've seen increased enrollment in applied technology. The headcount has increased by 117% fall 2020. Also, information technology and cybersecurity enrollment has increased. It's up 6.19% in the fall. And then also hospitality leadership enrollment is up 31.49% in the fall as well. Academic Affairs is also looking at curriculum, program viability, and the 21st century skills, as I mentioned. Working with workforce, you've probably heard that we've been launching the promotion of the fast track micro-credentials. In 3 weeks, we had 400 inquiries. And I think it's next week that information technology and cybersecurity fast track will be starting. As I said, we're revamping curriculum using 21st century skills. And as a refresher, that includes, for example, critical thinking, empathy, collaboration, digital fluency, self-awareness. These are things that employers are looking for out of our students. Another item that we need to look at carefully with our faculty is redefining liberal arts. It's our bread and butter of this institution, definitely. But we need to look at it and how do we incorporate the 21st century skills? How do we incorporate and make it relevant for our students going into the either transferring or to the workforce? My background, my own academic background is in the liberal arts. The liberal arts are very important. They help us understand who we are, our identity, culture, society, art, preserving the past while learning how to navigate in the present and providing us with the appropriate tools to imagine the future with equity and empathy. But we need to make it current so our employers are looking at our students to hire, and the liberal arts are key. We can do both. So in addition to that, the HLC has talked about, has revised their standards and acting on our findings with program review and program viability. So that means that we have to look carefully at our classes that are consistently low enrolled, and we need to make sure our programs are relevant, as I stated. Another item that we're working on is transfer rates and partnerships. For example, we had a meeting yesterday with Banner University Medicine with their leadership team, and we are strengthening those partnerships so our students can work at these hospitals, for example. But they were saying that the message really should be not only for the health professions, but hospitals have finance employees, they have IT, they have culinary, the plumbing. And so all of these areas we can have our students go into in hospitals as well. Today, we met with Catholic University leadership as well. And we're talking about partnering more with, for example, in addition to business, but also nursing and cybersecurity. So these are very vivid. We've had recent talks with the U of A and how we can perhaps do some co-branding and make sure our students perhaps students that didn't quite get into admission to the U of A, but very close, they can start classes at Pima and then continue at the U of A, but guaranteed admittance to the university. So we're having those conversations as well. Student engagement is very key, and we work closely with the student affairs leadership team, student life, student clubs, our faculty are advisors to student club organizations. The Pima Connect early alert tool is key for retention as well. And we've seen 10% increases in courses that participated in early alert. Also faculty advising. In fact, at the Faculty Senate and Administrative meeting, as well as the Faculty Senate meeting last Friday, we had a robust conversation about how faculty advising is important to retention. And so they're going to be compiling all the different strategies that they're using and thinking of additional ones to help our students with retention. So we're very excited about that. We also have embedded tutoring and embedded librarians. I wanted to show you another slide here about multiple measures, just to give you some information about this. So as you can see, the success of multiple measures. Gateway math successes by 68.9% from 2015 to 2019. And for our Latinx students, 17 to 19-year-olds, the number of completers increased greatly by about 200% in Gateway Math. So we see that these strategies are working for our students. Go back to this previous slide. Dual enrollment has been a great success. James Palacios has done an outstanding job. We've tripled the number of classes to teach dual enrollment. We've increased the number of schools that have hosted dual enrollment courses by 22%. And so now we're going to be focusing on bridging those students, making sure that they continue at Pima College. Other initiatives are the AAC&U OER Institute, where a Pima team has identified the goal of reducing the costs of textbooks, at least by 10%. Also, the team is developing a series of strategies that will help this endeavor for zero-cost texts and low-cost texts, and providing professional development for OER. The Gardner Institute Student Success and Retention Academy, we have a Pima team working on that as well. And the Gardner Institute focuses and champions equity and social justice and wants to advance retention practices such as race and family income that are no longer the best predictor of student success in higher education. And the team wants to focus on the part-time students, how we can better serve our part-time students and reduce, and increase the retention rates. We have equitable grading initiatives going on. The deans are focusing with their department heads on DFW grades, taking a deeper dive. We call it the wildly important goal for deans, the WIG. Data tells us what is and what was. And using data, we can implement and act and create creativity about how we can address these DFW rates for our students to increase their retention and completion. The UN Sustainable Development Goals Open Pedagogy Fellowship, that's another initiative that was started by a faculty member. So this is going to provide several faculty members, about 14 of them, to participate in the fellowship, where they have the opportunity to learn about and apply OER and open pedagogy to social justice. And this is where students, this is kind of reversing the classroom, where the students are creating the content for the classes and helping to teach. I'd like to share just a couple, I know I'm running out of time, of retention examples by divisions, and you see them listed there. I'd like to thank the deans and the faculty who have worked very hard on persistence and retention strategies and recruitment as well. For example, in applied technology, program advisors follow up with the learners when they are nearing their degree completion. And the applied technology program partners with community groups, workforce, and high schools, youth programs, for example. Business administration, I'll give one example. They have developed and condensed courses to 8 weeks. This format will help support student retention and completion. And I believe they have created a fast track, or will be creating a fast track on data analytics, which is much needed right now. In communications, several disciplines within the division now use OER to support students and to minimize costs. Health professions, they use a case management faculty advising model to support students through their educational path in Pima. In math, there are embedded tutors to support and support coaches that are available within the math courses to support student success. Also, there's co-requisite support. In the humanities, social sciences, and education division, the post-degree teacher certification program created a social media campaign to recruit students and help address the teacher shortage in Arizona. They have included faculty from several disciplines supporting the food pantry. Also, there's been diversification of the curriculum to include African-American and Asian American studies, and a grant proposal to the National Endowment of the Humanities to develop curriculum in Border culture studies. The arts have numerous exhibits and performances that I hope all of us can attend and support that highlight and showcase the various digital media platforms and PCC arts to support recruitment of students. The sciences, they have community and high school outreach and events that are represented by faculty who support the recruitment efforts and career advising. Pima Online, they've redesigned the orientation on online learning to better support online and virtual learners, specifically now that we went into this mode where students were not familiar with this modality. Also, their online success coaches are assigned to courses to support the reduction of online versus non-online success gaps. So you can see the divisions have been working very hard on these efforts as well. So with retention, we must be creative and innovative. And it'll be key to require more flexible schedules, for example, perhaps even more self-paced courses, boot camps, mentorship programs, childcare assistance, as we're talking about childcare. The improvement also of social opportunities for students. And we must recognize that attracting and keeping non-traditional students will be key. We need to work and continue working on reskilling and upskilling that alignment. In addition, other things to consider, we should be creating pathways that extend into the high schools, align general education pathways to each campus while being strategic with the 200 level courses, building high flex classrooms, having childcare for our students, and also a new initiative with climate change. These efforts with climate change are system-wide, and we will be needing to make this also a priority for the college and for our community. Last month, board member Garcia asked about Tucson Zip Codes. So I hope this will help provide some information for you. So the zip codes that you see, they're highlighted. There are 7 of them, and these demonstrate the lowest per capita income and highest poverty rates. So what the college will be doing now is looking at how we can researching potential ways that Pima can be of service to these communities. We want to explore, for example, taking mobile units to the communities, such as automotive or HVAC. There's been talk about doing teledentistry as well. So board member Garcia and board members, if you want more details about the zip codes, please let me know and I'll be happy to share that with you. So students, they must know that they are being supported. Stop sharing here. They need to feel that sense of belonging, of being at Pima as a family. They need to feel socially connected. They need to know that we care. We need to create also a culture of inquiry and use our data. As I said, data demonstrates what is and what was. But what matters is that we act, that we do, plan, and act. In higher education, sometimes we like to talk a lot and the implementation takes a little bit longer, but we need to accelerate what we need to do to serve our students in our community. That urgency is here and we need to adapt now. Pima can help our community, our students, and economic mobility for the families. I'd like to end with a quote from Representative John Lewis. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, You have a moral obligation, a mission and a mandate to stand up, to speak up and speak out and get in the way, get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. So let's get into good trouble for the sake of our students and of our community, nuestra familia. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Dr. Duran-Certa. It looks like Meredith Hay has a question and then Ms. Garcia.
Okay.
Yes. So I just want to take a moment to thank the provost for this extraordinary presentation. You know, I, as you all know, am a little bit familiar with what she does as a job. And it is extraordinary, Dolores, what you have pulled together. And I'm gonna, and your team and how much, I mean, there must have been 200 action items that you have worked on over the last 4 years. And the progress has been extraordinary. And I implore my board members who don't maybe spend, you know, their life thinking about retention and persistence to really meet with Dolores and meet with the chancellor and understand the depth of commitment, the depth of a work needed to pull off what the provost has just articulated. I think probably that Pima Community College is leading the way in the nation in terms of these efforts and persistence and retention, and it doesn't come by accident. Pay attention, board members. This is huge. What she has just articulated is probably a template for how to be a successful community college moving forward in these times. And I congratulate her and I congratulate the chancellor and the entire team for the extraordinary work that has gone on for the last 4 years to pull all this off and continue to strive, continue to make these efforts and never stop working, never stop struggling. You're absolutely right about invoking John Lewis. You know, we have just begun, but we've gotten this far because of the hard work of the provost and her team and the deans and the faculty and the leadership, quite frankly, of Chancellor Lambert. And I thank you all for everything you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hay. Well said. Ms. Garcia. You're muted.
Okay, Provost Dolores, a couple of things that I would like to see on the graph. I think you've done a great job in identifying these areas of improvement, but I think that some of the things, and I could be wrong, but some of the things that I think are lacking is that even though you show retention and persistence as being pretty much leveling and keeping things, you know, but it needs to really, you need to really identify it by programs and enrollment, by program. Also, I would like to, a trend line maybe. And then in addition to that, I'd like to see within the last 4 years, what has the budget been for these initiatives? And what is it going to be now? I think that would be helpful.
Okay, we can pull that together for you.
Thank you. Great job.
Ms. Ripley.
Thank you.
Yes, Provost Duran-Certa, thank you very much for not only some great data and a wonderful plan, but very beautifully articulated. And I appreciate that a lot. I know a lot of work went into that. And it also goes hand in hand and it dovetails so beautifully with the last presentation from last board meeting that Dr. Doré provided to us. This is really the foundation of what we as board members need to be supporting and doing, and it is concentration on retention, but also recruitment and enrollment and follow through. Retention, not just 1 year, but the whole life cycle of a student. So thank you so much for articulating that, because I think I'm glad you quoted John Lewis as well, because I think this is the time, and I'm sure you worked on this for the last 3 years, even before COVID, but this is a time for bold measures based on what's been happening even before COVID. So it's timely. And I look forward to seeing this implemented and executed. and seeing through to fruition. I know it's ongoing, it's never ending. And so I thank you for that. Beautifully done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ripley. Ms. Garcia, do you have another question?
No.
Your hand was still raised.
Oh, let me take it off. Well,
Provost Duran-Certa, I also just want to articulate my gratitude for all of the work. I think Dr. Hayes is absolutely right. You're creating an innovative roadmap that is both invigorated and also visionary, taking from, there is no solution that has, there's no silver bullet to resolve this in a single action. And this multi-pronged innovative approach, I think, is really moving in the right direction. So thank you for sharing with us really in more in depth the way that all of these different initiatives that we've been hearing about coalesce together. We really appreciate the hard work. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you all for your comments and your support. And it's a team effort, and we wouldn't be able to do this without your support as well. And I'm just grateful for the leadership at the college and the chancellor and our academic affairs, the deans, the faculty, everybody. It's a collective effort, and we care about our students and our community, and it shows through the work that we do. Thank you.
Well said. We are all on this ship together. Thank you. Next, we have our our reports by representatives to the board, 2.2. Our first representative is our student report from Colin Bryant. Mr. Bryant.
Hello and good evening, Chair Klinko, Chancellor Lambert, governing board members, faculty, fellow students, and guests. I'd like to give myself a brief introduction. My name is Colin Bryant, and this is my second year here virtually at Pima Community College. Right now, I am finishing up my HHS certificate, and I'm looking to transfer to NAU to complete a chemistry degree. I'm a liaison for our Phi Theta Kappa chapter, Alpha Beta Chi, and I'm also the governing board representative for Student Senate. I'm looking forward to becoming familiar with our governing board, and I'm excited for the experience that I'll gain from this position. I'd like to let you all know that this year's group of student senators is something special. We are a tight-knit group of students from several different areas of study. We've kept in touch with each other on a near daily basis since April, and we even held virtual meetings during the summer to get up to speed on what is expected in our newfound positions. As a result, we've been well prepared to share what we believe could improve the college. The initiative in this group is like I've never seen before, and it's largely what makes me so proud to call myself a student senator. There's a lot that we want to get done this year. First off, because Student Senate does meet during the summer, I strongly recommend that future student representatives be added to the agenda to report for September meetings. All summer, I was under the impression that we were going to be reporting at the September meeting. Now, this change won't affect me or the rest of this year's Student Senate, but it will make it more efficient for future groups because they'll be able to propose and get started on projects earlier in the year. Now, moving on, there's a pretty big on-campus issue that I'm pushing to get looked at by our Student Senate, and I'd like to bring it to the board's attention. At the downtown campus, as well as others, but specifically the downtown campus, there are dark areas that students have to walk through to get to their cars after their evening classes. Just by word of mouth, there have been several reports by many students feeling uncomfortable walking in the dark. Many are choosing to walk in groups. It'd be immensely helpful to have some better lighting around each campus, but again, specifically downtown. As far as what Student Senate can do right now, we're looking into giving surveys to students to gauge their comfort on these parts of campus. Also, we're looking to put together a team of volunteers to walk around each campus and map out the dark spots at night. This data from these two campaigns can be combined to rank which spots at which campuses need to be prioritized to get light. Another on-campus issue I'd like to bring up is the lack of cell service at East Campus, as well as the poor Wi-Fi signal on other campuses. While I fear that the cell service may be out of the scope of what Student Senate can do, we can make up for that by pushing for an upgrade in our Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi available to students is decent at best indoors, but if a student decides to work outside, the Wi-Fi signal drops significantly. We'd like to get in touch with the IT department on each campus to express this concern and find a solution to the problem. That is all I have to report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bryant. Chancellor Lambert, I think that each of these issues are actually very critical. I mean, one is a safety issue, one is an access issue, and one is a communications issue. Is there anything that we can do to accelerate this and really look at these in a much more robust time frame to try to get them addressed, particularly the Wi-Fi issues? If we're having Wi-Fi connectivity issues in our campus buildings, that is something we really need to get fixed immediately. So is that something that you could take a look at and report back to us at the next meeting?
So David Doré, President Doré, is going to be meeting with the students, I believe, on Friday to better understand these concerns, to look at what we can do to address them. We appreciate that the students are bringing them forward so that we can make sure that, you know, we're trying to meet those needs. And as we move to a community policing model, hopefully more of that touch points can be factored into providing that safe passage out to the parking lots and between buildings, et cetera. On the Wi-Fi pieces, I'll have Dave follow up with the students as well and see what we can do there. Cell phone may be a little more challenging, but with the Wi-Fi, we probably need to increase some of our locations and make sure that the current technology is keeping pace.
Okay, so if you could just report back to us next month, sort of what the outcomes are of those,
Yep.
we would really appreciate it. And again, thank you, Mr. Bryant, for bringing these issues forward. I think they're of concern to the whole institution. Our next report is our adjunct faculty report with Sean Mendoza. Mr. Mendoza, you are up.
Chairman Klinko, Chancellor Lambert, members of the board, and honored guests. As you may have read from my board report, a number of exciting events are occurring this month. Of those submitted this in this month's board report, there is one item in particular I wanted to update you on today. As you may know, the college is engaging in a classification and compensation study. Unfortunately, the adjunct faculty will not be a group included in this study. After speaking with administration, I've been told that the current study focuses specifically on full-time employees, similar to the Fox Lawson study some 20 years ago, back when I was a young lad. Given the changes that the college and the world has undergone since that time, I would ask that the college consider future studies to include our employee group when determining the impact of adjunct faculty on the institution's success and that of our students and community. On a positive note, Dr. David B. has agreed to work with us to explore concepts like a tiered system or pro rata faculty mentioned by the chancellor and the college community in previous discussions. It's our hope that these initiatives will lead to the retention of high-performing, student-centered, and student-ready educators to our ranks. Thank you, Dr. B, for your guidance, and we look forward to working with you in these exciting initiatives. As always, thank you for your time and support to the adjunct faculty.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mendoza. And if you could please report back to us how those conversations go and what the tiered program looks like. We'd like to know more. And as we're getting the class comp study, Chancellor Lambert, if you could report back to us on if there's opportunities to include the adjunct faculty in the process.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair. We will make sure that we address the adjunct pay issue. May be a little more challenging in terms of getting the kind of accurate data, but we will be able to come up with something that allows us to really, especially benchmark against our regional market in terms of where adjunct faculty may have opportunities and options. So we'll look at that.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next report is our faculty report from Denise Riley. Ms. Riley, you're up.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Chairperson Klinko, members of the board, Chancellor Lambert, colleagues, and guests. I'm Denise Riley. I'm Student Success Faculty under the Division of College Readiness and Student Success here at the college. Second report, so no longer newbie. A synopsis of what you got in the board of, the Faculty Senate report is we received a presentation about OER, Open Educational Resources, and Dr. Duran Cerda mentioned that earlier, and the future of the initiative at the college. We held officer elections for the 2020 year, and more information will be forthcoming. We received typical reports, including the president's report, recruitment and retention reports, which you've heard much about tonight, PCCA, provost, and governing board report. Of note, the admin and faculty senate leadership meeting, most of the conversations centered around enrollment and retention efforts, as Dolores mentioned earlier this evening, academic and workforce planning, and updates related to the pandemic. I want to mention that discussion mainly centered around faculty pay and shared governance. Those were kind of the two main areas that were considered, and the role of the faculty in the class and comp study. And I know we've heard these words, tonight several times, the class and comp study, but we have a couple steering committee representatives, and there's definitely some questions around the transparency, inclusivity. These things were being raised in a larger context. And so I want to mention this is a little bit strange, because when I report to you, I've already submitted my governing board report a week and a half ago. So it's kind of off center, because what happens is we then have a regular faculty senate meeting and then a leadership meeting following that. So a lot has actually transpired since this report that I made. And a lot of it really does have to do with the class and comp study. A lot of it has to do with this uneasiness related to transparency, inclusivity, and equity around this. And so I just want to bring this up, as this is something faculty is concerned about. It's something that you've heard over and over tonight, but it's something that probably will be discussed more extensively in the next report. And we did have some faculty notable accomplishments. I mentioned this last time, which was related to the Teaching and Learning Center and the Unteaching and Unlearning Summit. And I did mention last time that there was a statement the Faculty Senate wanted to read to the board members. And I wanted to repeat this statement again to see if there's any questions or thoughts. And I also want to encourage you, if at all possible, to attend either our November or December faculty senate meetings, just the same way as any new employee is encouraged to attend a board meeting to kind of see the lay of the land and how things go. I would also encourage any board members to attend one of our faculty senate meetings to just kind of check it out and see what that's like. And I know you have busy schedules, but I'm going to read this statement one more time and just see if we have any questions from any board members or thoughts. So our statement goes, faculty senators are approached more frequently by our colleagues and constituents regarding employee pay at the college. We understand that finances are especially volatile given the depressed levels of enrollment college-wide and the ongoing pandemic. But faculty senators are concerned with the current allocation of funds. The Faculty Senate is interested in hearing from faculty colleagues on the Class and Comp Faculty Steering Committee, having Faculty Senate officers collaborate during their administrative meetings with members of the ELT, and exploring how faculty, staff, and administration can all work together on how to allocate funds in ways that will optimize academic excellence and student success. At this point, we have met, so since this statement, we've met with faculty steering committee representatives, we've met with the provost, vice provost, and chancellor, and then in our next month's report, we'll probably have a little bit more extensive information and follow-up on how these are transpiring. But I wanted to ask if the board had any questions or thoughts or comments on the statement this time.
Mr. Sylvan, could you just provide a little bit of clarity? I mean, we can't get into a substantive conversation, but we could provide something, right? I mean, what would be the information on that?
Right. So the compensation is not an agenda topic. I mean, there's clearly going to be discussions about compensation and the study result and budget, obviously on future agendas. But for this evening, if the board, if a board member had a specific question or topic they would like addressed at a future meeting, I think it would be fine to mention that. But as you know, this isn't the right venue to have a dialogue about that at this point in time. There will be opportunities to do that at a different occasion.
Okay. So a couple things, Denise. So thank you so much for your presentation. I think by continuing to remind us of that position statement is very helpful. It keeps the topic really fresh and keeps, I think the board aware of the continuing concerns of the faculty senate. So we really, I think that there really is value in continuing to that. I think the other important thing is, you are the representative from the faculty. So we know that things have happened since the report was submitted, and you of course are more than welcome to share with us during this report those types of things. So, I know you're new to the position, and and it's unusual because we've only known you in this online context. So we really appreciate all the work you're doing to bring these issues forward, but definitely keep us up to date. You don't have to just give us verbatim what's in the report. You can give us sort of the current events, and we know there's always been that timing. So
absolutely. No, thank you. I appreciate that.
So
thank you
so much. And
I just wanted to make you aware that there have been conversations had since then. So it's not just what's in the report, but we have been in communications, and we have been told by executive leadership that we are working through this. So I just wanted to make sure to clarify that, so it doesn't just seem like we're throwing this information out and nothing has happened since. We've actually had, a couple meetings since. So no, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, we really appreciate it, and again, thank you for bringing the concerns and the issues forward. Okay, our next report is Jeff Thies. Mr. Thies, you are up.
Good evening, Chairperson Klinko, board members, Chancellor Lambert, students, colleagues, and guests. I'm Jeff Thies. I'm the Dean of College Readiness and Student Success, and I'm providing the administrative report this evening. First, I'd like to take a quick second to thank all of our Pima Community College tutors for all the support they provide our students. It's a great persistence and retention strategy, as we heard earlier, and this happens to be Tutor Appreciation Week. So if you're on campus, stop by a learning center and thank a tutor. So tonight I'm going to share content from three areas: the Arts Division, the Communications Division, and a portion of the Equity and Retention Academy report that will be finished and out soon. So I'm going to start off with the equity report. I will reference two tables. So if you're out there in the listening world, I recommend downloading the report from the board agenda. So to get started, the Equity and Retention Academy team consisted of 5 Pima employees that worked through the summer and the first part of this fall to put together a plan to support equity and retention. The team utilized the voluntary framework of accountability reports that are at our disposal, thanks to STAR. And we were able to focus on metrics that exist to measure the important milestones that are known to be leading indicators of completion. So the first table provides indications of positive movement in several areas, as you would imagine, based on the earlier report from the provost. Of note, the percentage of part-time, first-time in college students that have earned at least 6 credits in the first semester. So this is a part-time cohort, which we know is about 70% of our population. So that's a group we want to definitely be checking out. They've at least 6 credits in the first semester has increased to just under a quarter to over a third in the last 4 fall semesters that we have data for. And that's a 50% increase. The number of students completing the math milestone has nearly tripled, a sign that the redesign concepts that we've been working through are supporting part-time students as well. Reviewing the same data with an equity lens focused on our 2 largest student populations, we do still find several challenges. So there's plenty of good work to be done. So we want to get in good trouble moving forward. The good news is that the Latinx student population has made significant progress in the first 3 measures. The challenge is that the gap still exists. So the positive is we're making great strides for our Latinx population. The challenge is there's still that gap between the Latinx and the white population. The American Indian, Alaska Native, and Black African American populations can also be provided and are provided in a larger chart. The challenge with those is that it's a very small N for both of those. When you disaggregate to part-time, first-time in college, the trend is much more roller coastery because of the small number of students that fit those definitions. So moving on, the communications and arts divisions have had a lot going on over the last few months. I'm not going to be able to cover everything that's in the report. So again, please download the report from the board agenda and read through the great work that's been going on. So just to spotlight a few from the communications division, they've been working on a lot of curriculum upgrades. So creative writing, the communication courses, academic and critical learning and reading, first year writing, literature. They've been working to add OER to their D2L shells, so open ed resources, making courses much cheaper from a textbook standpoint. They've been centering on inclusive and authentic learning environments. They've been making sure to contextualize to the local region, the Southwestern region, and its environmental concerns. So a lot of activity from the communications division, from a curriculum standpoint, and also from a community standpoint. The Curiosity Symposium is resuming virtually with monthly discussions touching on reading, writing, and storytelling. And also the division has reached out, and it's continuing to reach out to local businesses and corporations like Geico to review the communications classes on site. This would include micro or mini targeted classes that focus on their needs. And lastly, from the communications division, they're partnering with both the Pima County Courthouse and our own health professions and biomedical sciences department on new course development. The non-credit partnership with the courthouse is in response to a direct community need and will focus on elements of our advanced professional communications course, Writing 254. Moving on to arts. Arts has been very busy. Our Dean of Arts was featured on K-Gun 9 late this summer and did a segment about how our Pima Arts are back up to providing live performances. We also had former Pima AFA student Vanessa Zimdars' 1810 to question mark piece was featured, and also the cover art in Mexican gallery exhibit Las Iluministas. She was also featured in Pink Colored Gallery in the United Kingdom. Other things from the arts division. Cela Garcia, a student and staff stage manager for Little Shop of Horrors, excited about that. Has created videos to meet the cast, so you can jump online and see who the cast is going to be in anticipation of that Little Shop of Horrors production. The art gallery at the downtown campus opened several weeks ago with the exhibit Lockdown Year. The exhibit presents artwork created by Pima students during the year of COVID. It's a great quick walkthrough upstairs in the CC building the next time you're at downtown campus. The Visual Arts Gallery at West Campus, the Egress #2 exhibit opened, featuring student artwork from spring 2021. And a few other short pieces of information. Our former dance student, Eva Schmidt, that name may sound familiar to a lot of you, makes the front page of the website. And it's a great story about her moving to New York. Proud mama there. Pima was featured also in a KVOA segment. Pima Arts Department presented unique artwork to the Citizen Diplomacy Alliance's nonprofit executive director, Pat Watson. The piece was created by Russian Paralympians that happened to visit Pima in 2019.
Jeff, you have about 20 seconds left.
Okay, I'm almost done. It's made of clay metals and a cholla cactus wood branch to symbolize the 2020 Paralympic Games and the Southern Arizona landscape. And that concludes my report from the administrators.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Mr. Lopez, Michael Lopez, was having technical problems this evening, so he will not be giving a report, but his written report is online. Next, we have the Chancellor's report. Chancellor Lambert.
Well, good evening, everybody. And again, I just want to thank everybody for the tremendous hard work and resiliency everyone has shown throughout the past 19 months. And throughout all of that, Pima continues to do some amazing things. Today, we've had a number of exciting events occur at the college and in the community. And I want to highlight just a few and some other activities. So this morning, I was asked to do a welcome address for the National Council on Workforce Education, who held their national conference here in Tucson, Arizona. It was their first conference they've had in person since the pandemic. And I'm proud to say that our very own Dean, Amanda Abens, is on the board. And during I believe it was the afternoon session, Pima received an award of excellence from the NCWE for our work with the paramedics partnership with the United States Air Force. So we have a lot to be proud of in terms of what we're doing, and it's being recognized all the way across the country. But during that same event, Jamie Marasotis, if you do not know that name, he is the CEO of the Lumina Foundation. The Lumina Foundation is important to those of us in higher education. And so I just want to read an excerpt from his latest book called Human Work, because I think it really reflects what the provost was talking about earlier. And it really is shaping the vision of the college. But we were doing all of these things before he wrote this book. So I just want you to put that in context too. This combination of abilities, knowledge, and skills, which evolves throughout life, is what we should be calling talent. What this means is that learning is the work, and the highest purpose of work is that it leads to learning. In other words, work is learning, and learning is work, and they happen together in the human work ecosystem. In the human work ecosystem, education and employment are tied together in unprecedented ways. Indeed, they are merging into one activity. And I share this because when you listen to what Provost Duran-Surda was saying earlier, we have to look at especially the liberal arts. And we're going to put greater attention on the liberal arts because that is the area of the college where we're seeing the most enrollment loss. And we've got to bring them up and make them more relevant to the reality of what you just heard me read. And this isn't just coming from one of the preeminent thought leaders in the nation. You're seeing this coming from other preeminent thought leaders across the nation as well, that this notion of workforce and liberal arts have to be more integrated. And Ian can tell you, Dr. Work can tell you, him and I are part of a group through MIT talking about the workforce relevance of the liberal arts. And so I think what we're going to see going forward is just greater attention to help strengthen the liberal arts so that they remain relevant. And I know we were in a student panel recently, and one of the students, we don't know if his is the exception or the rule, but we're going to find out. He was not necessarily pleased with some of his experiences at Pima, and he said he can go to YouTube and get the same thing for free. Well, we have to take that seriously. And I think that ties back to what we're hearing in the larger conversation, that this notion of work and learning really fuse together. And I'm so excited because today during the Catholic U ribbon cutting, President Garvey and his team were here. We're so excited about that partnership, but that partnership is really about the fusion of the work and learning components as we build this applied business program together. And we're so pleased that we have already launched that partnership, but the challenge has been it was launched during the pandemic. And so they were not able to be out in the high schools recruiting face-to-face, but all of that's changing now, as you know. And so we also explored other ways that we can take these concepts and fuse them into other programmatic areas. And you heard Dolores make reference to some of them earlier. So we're really excited about that. We also, just last week, David and I were in conversations with a very prominent person in our community who helped create the Center of Opportunity in partnership with the Gospel Rescue Mission. And so we're going to be getting greater support to do some of the programming that you're seeing that is really in many ways tied to the micro pathways work that you've heard, again, the provost make reference to Pima Fast Track. And so you're going to see more of that as we go forward. And I want to clarify something that the provost was also, she shared with you the data of completion that was pandemic data. Pre-pandemic, our completion numbers were closer to 3,800 a year. So 3,800 to that 6,000 number, just want to I didn't want it to seem like it's way outside of possibility to get to 6,000. It's still a stretch from 3,800 to 6,000, but we're willing to stretch to try to get there because our students need that from us. And so we're going to be doubling down our efforts. But this notion that she made reference to about the liberal arts are going to be essential to doing that, because that's the side of the college that we've got to boost up and find new innovative ways. That was the other thing that President Garvey and his team noticed about the work at Pima. They were very impressed with the creativity, just our ingenuity, and the fact that we are really moving things in a different way than what you see in more of a traditional higher education model. And I'll loop that back to our conversation with Banner. In our conversation with Banner that the provost alluded to as well, they were sharing areas where they were having some challenges in their own workplaces. And so financial literacy, computer literacy, resiliency were things that they brought up. And then as we delved a little deeper into the financial literacy piece, what really highlighted was employees need to understand the business model of healthcare better. And I think that's also true about us in higher education, that our employees need to understand the business model of higher education better. So we're going to be we're looking to collaborate on something together, but we're also going to do more internally at the college to help people understand what our business model is. So that way folks have a better foundation for how the college operates as we go forward. Also, we're excited about San Diego. I know many of you will be there with us from the board, and Damien is going to receive the Trustee of the Year for the Pacific Region, and Mays Ahmad is going to receive the Faculty of the Year for the Pacific Region. They're both in consideration for the national award, so let's give them our best thoughts and hope that one or both of them receive that national award as Trustee of the Year and Faculty of the Year. We're so excited that we have two individuals. And just for history, Pima, over the last few years, we have had other individuals be nominated for CEO of the Year, for Diversity Equity of the Year, both times getting the Pacific Region and one time walking away with the national award. So we're making a big difference. Aspen Institute has recognized Pima Community College as a top 150 community college in the country 2 times in a row. And so these are things that we have to not lose context about. Yes, we have our challenges internally. Communications is always a challenge. I have never worked any place where it wasn't a challenge. But the key is that we continue to engage with each other. We do it civilly, respectfully, and then we can work through pieces. I've been at other places where we taught class comp. Class comp is a sensitive topic, and it always will be sensitive. There are always, and I've said this in the beginning, there are people who will gain from that. There will be some people who do not move anywhere from that. And there are some people who will be negatively impacted by a class comp study. But there are systems that we put in place in order to mitigate against the group who would be negatively impacted by not negatively impacting them. And the goal is, and this is where the committee comes in, we have to talk about, these are the decision points. Who do we move up first, and by what percent to move them back into the range that makes their wages competitive? And that's an important decision point. Siegel's not going to make that decision. So the committee is going to make recommendations around those kinds of decision points that will ultimately come to the board for the final decision. And so I think that's been part of the confusion with class comp, was when does the committee's role really kick in? And I will own that, because there should have been better clarity up front that this has been the research phase, a lot of data gathering. There wasn't a lot for the committee to do in this phase. It's once the data is all gathered, now we can talk about how do we move that forward. And those are the decisions we have to make as an institution. But never lose sight, it's in the context of the overall budget. What can we devote to making salary adjustments accordingly? So with all that said, I just want to emphasize, we're doing so many great things, and we should never forget the positive things. It's easy to only focus on what's not being done. But if you look at things on balance, we are leading the way, and that would not happen if people have not bought into the vision that we have set forth for the college. And I'll close with this. The city of Tucson just put out a press release. The city of Tucson and Pima Community College have received the Excellence in Economic Development Award by the International Economic Development Council. Again, another example of the great work we're doing in this community. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very
Here,
much.
here.
Lambert.
Great work. Great work. If I was there, I'd be clapping.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's really impressive, the work that's happening across the institution, and thank you for your leadership. Moving on, we have our information items. They are posted online. Next, we have our consent agenda. They are posted online with all of the backup material. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ripley. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez, I saw you raise your hand, but I didn't hear you.
Aye.
Okay, terrific. Thank you very much. Next, we have our action items. The first is the intergovernmental agreement between the Housing and Urban Development HUD, Choice Planning and Action Grant, City of Tucson, PCC, DO, and M&S. Mr. Sylvan, could you read the recommendation?
Yes, I'd be glad to, Mr. Chair. The Chancellor recommends that the Governing Board authorize the Chancellor or designee to execute an intergovernmental agreement for the Thrive in the O5 Choice Neighborhoods Planning and Action Grant Subaward from the City of Tucson's Department of Housing and Community Development, funded by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. The sub-award amount awarded to the college to complete the Tucson in Neon sign restoration project is $25,000 for the performance period from October 1st, 2021 through September 30, 2022.
Do I have a motion to adopt the recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. A discussion. Ms. Garcia, it looks like you have your hand raised.
Yeah, okay, so I'd like to know, my understanding, and I don't know if I read it right. So we're gonna contribute $10,000. The city's gonna contribute 25 for the restoration. And that from that point on, we will continue to take on that maintenance ourselves. Pima will.
Chancellor Lambert?
So the answer, is yes, that on a go-forward basis, it is our responsibility. Also, if you wouldn't mind, I actually asked Dr. David Doré to talk a little more about the Thrive in the O5 project so you can see it in its fuller context if you'd like to hear that piece. And then the other piece in terms of that award I made reference to, it is tied to our work with the Thrive in the O5.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Dr. Doré, if you want to go ahead and give that presentation, then if there's follow-up questions, we can get those answered.
Great. Yes. Thank you, Chair Klinko, members of the board, Chancellor Lambert. So just a background. So the Thrive in 5 initiative that was developed in 2018, and the real goal is to promote safety and well-being and really to empower and to ensure that all community members have access to education, essentially, and so forth. Excuse my dog in the background there. Provost Duran-Cerda, she cited that zip code is one of the poorest zip codes in Pima County. And so what we've done is we've partnered with the city. We have a joint position, and we're really taking a collective impact approach to really, regenerating this area and trying to have really responsible development, which means that those community members that are in that zip code, we're really trying to lift them up and find employment with them. And so we've done a lot of, I think, really innovative partnerships. We've really reached out to that community through this initiative, and you're beginning to see that area come alive. And the hope is that, the Tucson House will receive the $30 million federal grant to restore that house. And that's public housing for the city of Tucson. And half of the community members in the Tucson house are disabled. And then the other half are seniors. And so one of the things that we've been doing as well is that outreach to the disabled community, really to get them into our programs. Interestingly enough, these micro pathways, the Fast Track initiative, has been very, very successful in the 05 area. So that gives you a little bit of context of kind of what's going on in the initiative. What we've done also is, we're partnering around crime prevention. So we've been working very, very closely with the Tucson Police Department to reduce crime in that area as well. As many of you know, that has been a high crime area. So it's in our best interest really to reduce crime around the downtown campus. We've been very involved with Parks and Rec. So De Anza Park across the street from the downtown campus just installed a new dog park in that area. They have volleyball, sand volleyball in there, and really trying to make that more attractive to our students. So gives you a little bit of background, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions. And then I sit on the steering the committee, which is made up of Ward 3, a lot of business and nonprofits, and we're really the anchor in that whole neighborhood.
Okay, but how does a sign help that?
So again, I'll just give you my perspective, Board Member Garcia. That sign is falling apart, right? It looks really, really poor. And I think, one thing is the renovation of that sign, it really, I think, is a very high profile change to that neighborhood and to Drockman. And I think to have that sign lit up is going to dramatically change that area. And, we heard from our students Senate rep today about some of the concerns, legitimate concerns about the downtown campus. And I think anything to make that area more vibrant and more safe will serve our students very, very well, from my perspective.
Well, I don't know. It's, I guess I look at the longevity of that sign and how much more is the college going to be paying for it. It's got to be an expensive maintenance.
Are there any other questions from any of the other board members? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Okay, the motion carries 3-2 with Ms. Garcia and Mr. Gonzalez dissenting. The next item is the COVID vaccine incentive program for employers. We had a discussion in our executive session about some of the federal regulatory requirements that are coming. And so at this point, I would move that we table this item for the November agenda or the future agenda. Let's say to a future agenda when it is a little more, when we have a little more information in terms of what the federal government is going to be doing. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Ms. Garcia, your hand is raised.
No, sorry.
Okay. So no other questions? Okay. All in favor of tabling to a future agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? I think I heard everybody, so it passes unanimously. Finally is 5.3, the discussion and possible approval to extend the term of the chancellor's existing contract by 1 year. Again, we had some internal discussion during our executive session. And so at this point, I would recommend or make a motion that we table this to the November agenda. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Any additional discussion?
I would, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, Dr. Hay.
I would just like to state for the record that Chancellor Lambert has been an extraordinary leader in extraordinary times. And Pima County and the state of Arizona are grateful to him for everything he has done. And I want him to know that personally. And I also want everybody in the audience to know that without Lee Lambert, Chancellor Lambert, we would not be in a position of strength that we are today. Thank you.
Ms. Ripley.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to also add to Dr. Hayes' comments. I think that the discussion really focused on the contract itself and has no reflection on Chancellor Lambert's performance, which has been, I agree, extraordinary during extraordinary times. I can't even imagine anyone else doing what he's done over the last 19 months, let alone the last 8 years. So this is a technical discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I again, I would concur with all that. Thank you, Chancellor Lambert, for your extraordinary leadership. I mean, we've heard it throughout the evening. But again, all of these major initiatives that you've continued to drive and assure delivery on time, we really appreciate all of the things that you have done for this community. So thank you. So we have a motion on the table. Is there any other comments? Okay, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Finally, we have a request for future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items? Okay, hearing. Yes, Ms. Garcia.
Okay, I don't know if this is appropriate, but are we ever going to have the assessment presented for the what is it called, the LGA, or the people that are doing the assessment on the train?
Yes, so that we do plan to have a full, robust conversation on that. Mr. Sylvan or Mr. Lambert, when we don't have, that hasn't been fully completed yet, so I don't think we've had it hasn't been scheduled. But do we have any sort of expectation in terms of time frame? And do we expect to have do we anticipate a special study session? Or yes, so it looks like a special study session. But do we have an expected time frame for that? I'm seeing nods of when we expect to see that completed. So Mr. Sylvan, do you have?
So I think Dr. B has his hand raised because he's the one who's been in the most direct communication with GLHN, who I think is the consultant being referred to. So he can probably provide the best estimate.
Dr. B, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand raised there.
Good evening, Chairperson Klinko, members of the board, Chancellor Lambert, colleagues, guests. GLHN notified us that they're probably about a week away from their conclusions. So I'd expect that we can put together that presentation for the board within the next, I would say the next month, because we have to take a look and make sure that it all makes sense what GLHN has put together, and that they're going to join us in that presentation to help facilitate the conversation.
Okay, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. And then again, we hope it will address some of the issues that were outlined earlier at the call to the audience. I see.
Absolutely will.
Okay, thank you very much. So Ms. Garcia, I hope that resolves your question. Okay, I see you shaking your head, yes. Anything else? Okay, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Be safe. Continue to wash your hands and wear masks. Thank you.